There is a growing body of literature that highly associates childhood maltreatment with disruptions in one's adult life. Children are among the most vulnerable populations around the world. When we talk about psychological maltreatment, it has been indicative of many psychiatric disorders that happen later in adulthood.
The most widely used definition of children maltreatment has been to understand how there could be repeated pattern of caregiver behavior that are very negative in nature. For example, where children feel they are unwanted, unloved, or they are endangered, and their whole structure within the home and otherwise is significantly impacted. Psychological maltreatment has also been indicative of major disruptions when it comes to developmental losses for children. So there could be difficulties for such children at home, at schools, within the household and outside homes, and could also lead to many loss of psychosocial developments which relate to their identity, forming meaningful relation with their peers, and in general to have a better understanding of their self-worth and self-esteem.
A study conducted at the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences tried to understand young women's childhood and its impact on their mental health. The study focused on university students who visited the campus counseling center. The primary data was collected from a sample of 50 females aged between 18 and 35. These participants were enrolled in full-time bachelor, master and PhD programs.
The present study also employed, so in general it was a very qualitative in nature, and we employed a feminist understanding to see how the current body of literature supports this context, especially in the Indian scenario. So there were 4 prominent themes that emerged from the narrative analysis of these counseling sessions. So the first theme was the dominant patriarchal society that is still very prevalent in the Indian context. So what we found from these interview sessions that were conducted with these women were that there were still a lot of elements of subordination that is significant in the patriarchal ideology, where women are still seen to be very submissive, they are controlled, and that was dominant in the narratives of these women. The other important theme that arose was the gendered social construction. When we talk about gender and social construction, we all know how our ideas around gender is very socially constructed. So the roles and norms that are already assigned by society can have significant impact on both men and women. In this context, since we were trying to understand women's mental health, we observed how such specific gender roles and norms tend to impact their mental health later in their adult lives. The third theme was about how, due to childhood abuse that I spoke about in the beginning, that had led to a lot of relational problems and losses for these women. So from the narratives we saw how these women they could not sustain and maintain social relations because they always felt that it was their fault what had happened to their childhood and how it was related to their self-esteem and self-worth. The last theme that was observed from all the narratives was women's perception of their own mental health. So what we observed was that these women who came for counseling sessions and were chosen for the study, they themselves think of their mental health as a fault of their own, something that happened to them as childhood maltreatment. They had difficulty understanding that it was something that was done to them by somebody known to them, like a primary caregiver or a stranger, and they could not still fathom the fact that it was not their fault. So this, considering all the 4 themes, it was well established with the current body of literature that even in the Indian context, when we speak about young women's mental health and their children, there seems to be a very significant association between the two. One prominent takeaway from this particular study is that university counseling centers can become an effective intervention as a powerful tool to help women, especially young women, to deal with their psychological distress that arise within their narratives and collective psyche.